This is Thrive in Chiropractic podcast with my colleague and now my friend, Dr. Colton O'Brien.
What's up, everybody?
Colton, man, it's been a big week for you in practice. First of all, how many weeks in practice are you now?
I think 6.
I think so. I think so too.
6 or 7. It's like after the 4th week, I just was like, hey, I'm in it now. So I'm done counting how new I am and just my eyes are on the future. So.
Oh, I love that. Your eyes are on the future. So your eyes are on the goal, yeah?
Yeah, my eyes are on the goal, but also my feet are right here.
It's good. I like that. So bring us up to speed with what's going on this week. Did you have any screenings last weekend?
Yes, I had 2. So
Okay.
That was cool. I just pretty much, if I have a free weekend, I spend my Saturday screening, it's honestly, I love it because one, I just get to go out and share the message of chiropractic and get people on the books. And then I just go and enjoy my Saturday carefree with my friends or my family. And knowing that I put some work in that day and knowing that I got people on the books for the next week is a good feeling. So that's really cool. So yeah, I went to Hotworks. They were having like an event. And so I set up a booth and just did some spinal screenings, talked to people, got quite a few people scheduled there. It was funny. I had a friend, Jared, if you're listening, I had my buddy Jared come with me. He's not a chiropractor, but we were together the night before. And I was like, hey, you want to come be my wingman at the screening? He's like, yeah, for sure. So he helped me out, just like clean the table, stuff like that. And he was like,
nice.
He just thought it was really cool. And so it's fun to have a friend see kind of like what I do. And then after that, I went to another screening. It was at this kind of like health place called Restore. They do like cryo and I'm blanking on the word, but like the oxygen saturation tank.
Okay.
And like sauna, red light therapy, stuff like that. And they were having like a 6-month anniversary, and I went. It was okay. It wasn't great, but that's all right. And yeah, I still got a few people to talk to a few people about chiropractic and got a few people on the books. So anything like that's worth my time. So that was really fun. And then I spent my Sunday just enjoying church with family and recharging and getting ready for an awesome week. And so now I'm in it, and it's been a week, to say the least.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your week in a minute, but I want to go back to something that you just said about your last spinal screening. The marketing gurus of the world, they say that if you at least get a return of what you spent financially on that event, it's a win. Because even if you don't like necessarily, blow it through the roof, I mean, if you spent $10 on the event and you get $10 back, they feel like that's a win. That's a good ROI. This is a fascinating story. This just happened in my practice. I'm 23 years in practice. The 23 years? Yeah, awesome. 23 years in practice. I'm 23 years in practice, and this woman like just called our office, and she called the office and she's like, I'd like to make a new patient appointment. And my team was like, sure, I can help you with that. And one of the questions that we ask on our new patient phone call is we say, who do we have the pleasure for thanking for referring you to the office? And the woman came back and she said, well, Dr. Nicole. She said, I saw Dr. Nicole speak like 15 years ago at one of her dinners with the docs. And she goes, I didn't come in back then because I was working up north, and I ended up going to a chiropractor up north after I heard her message. And now I'm retired. And so now I'm like, I would like to make an appointment with Dr. Nicole.
That's cool. What a seed you planted. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so fascinating, And so, that old BJ quote that you never know how far reaching something you think, say, and do today is going to affect the lives of millions tomorrow. So I like that you brought that up, Colt, and that's really important. And I think especially for those people listening to this podcast, if you're opening a practice, if you're getting ready to open a practice, if you're a chiropractic student, or you're just opening a practice and you feel like you're struggling a little bit, I want you to know that every effort counts, every seed counts. and it will be rewarded. It will come back to you, because it's just a law of the universe. Like what you put out, the energy that you put out is going to be what you bring back to yourself.
I think that's a amazing point, and something that I kind of had to look in the mirror and realize this week. Like, what am I putting out there?
Yeah. So tell me about that. We were talking a little bit earlier, guys, before this podcast, and it seems to have been a little bit of a rough week. What was happening?
I mean, every week's it's a great week, and every week is just a blessing to be alive and blessing for the opportunity to serve. But so Monday was fantastic. Probably one of my busiest days in office, rocking and rolling, just adjusting people all day, stuff like that. So I remember driving home on Monday, my windows down all the way home, listening, blaring music, and just like on the interstate, just enjoying in life and just in a state of gratitude. And Tuesday, I think I had like 4 or 5 I had 4 new patients, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be an awesome day. Like, I'm in a great place. Like, I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm ready to help people, and one rescheduled, but everyone else like no called, no showed, and they were all kind of earlier in the day. So and so none of those take up more time. So no one really booked on Tuesday other than my new patients, and so after none of them no showed, it's like 2:00, and I'm just sitting there. Like after the first one, I was like, this happens. That's all right, And then the second one happened, and I was like, yeah, really frustrating, but like, it's okay. And then it happened again, and it just felt like I was just getting punched. It just felt like I was getting beat down, and honestly, I got to like a really low state. Like I was pretty sad. I was down, and like it was a very gloomy day too. So that didn't help at all. And I just didn't feel my best. Like, and I went home, and this is like unlike me. And it was like 3:00, and I was just like, I put everything away, and I just like laid on the couch, and I just kind of had my head in my hands. I was just frustrated. I was just really frustrated. And, like when, things aren't going your way, sometimes negative thoughts can creep in. And like, I just kind of let them fester instead of changing my state, which we talked about a few weeks ago. And so it was a hard Tuesday, to be honest with you. But then that evening, I was like, man, like I cannot wallow anymore. Like I really am doing great for where I'm at. And so I was just like, man, I'm just going to get into the word. And like, that's like that's what I do. And so like, I just went and read Galatians and heard the good news and, talked to God. Sorry about that noise. Prayed. And yeah, it was just, man, it shifted my perspective on what life is about, why I'm doing what I'm doing, what's important. So that was really cool. And so I was ready to go Wednesday. And usually I don't see people on Wednesday, but I met a lot of people that could only come in on Wednesday. And so I scheduled them, and I came out of my way to come into the office, and then they no called, no showed. So that was disappointing. I was like, whatever. Okay. But I handled it okay. And then yesterday, I can't even remember at this point, but similar things happened early in the day. I had like 2 people, no call, no show. And so it was a tough week. Like I was just like, felt like things were not going my way. I felt like I was kind of getting beaten up on. And my mom comes and gets adjusted like once a week. And she's just like, she was worried about me. She's like, man, like the last few times I've talked to her, like the last few days, like every time I talk to you, you've just been not in a good place. Like from what I could tell, like your voice is heavy. And I'm like, Mom, like I'm a business owner, and like I just carry a lot of weight right now, and I'm stressed and overwhelmed. She just like, she kind of was like a mirror for me. She's like, what are you doing, man? Like this is not you. This is not what we do. This is not what I taught you. Like this is not what God expects of you. Like people when you're putting this energy out in the world, people are receiving it. Like who is going to want to come to a mopey chiropractor, and like not that I am that, and not that I, even if someone walked in the door, like I know me, and I could change my state like that, but like it's my mom, so I was just, as a person I can be vulnerable around. And yeah, she just, it was kind of like she checked me, and it was really good to be checked. And I had to reflect on it. And I looked back, and honestly, like, I put a lot of pressure on myself, which I think is natural. And so I can pardon myself when I'm not just crushing it like my friends that are, a year, 2 years, 3 years into practice, but I'm growing, and I'm developing, and I can promise you that I'm getting better each day, and I'm learning each day. And, and honestly, the practice is doing great for where I'm at. So, yeah, just had to reframe, reflect, but also realize, like, hey, there's some systems I need to put into place to make sure this stuff doesn't happen, whether it's my follow-up, whether it's my pre-framing, whether it's my emailing. There's just a lot of things that I can do better to make sure people aren't wasting my time, and that people are showing up. So that was my learning experience this week. So if anyone's out there and they're hearing this and they're having a hard time, whether it be that exact scenario or they just feel like not their best, just know that, like, the sun's going to shine again. And it's our job to, one, you can feel it, but you can't stay there. So that's me talking to me. Like, I can't stay there. I got to get out. I got to move. I got to move my body. I got to recharge. I got to refuel. I got to get rest. And I'm back. And today's been a fantastic day. I'm ending the week super strong, and yeah, super grateful for who I am, where I'm at, and all the people around me. So that's my message. That's my story for this week. Sorry for rambling.
No, it's a fantastic story, and I'm so glad, Colton, that you shared it. Hey, Colton, let me ask you this. There's so many great learning opportunities in this 1 week alone. My head is spinning right now. Can I share a couple of them with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So the first, I hope I actually should have been writing this down, because this podcast, guys, is actually going to turn into a coaching call right now. This is what one of our coaching calls look like. These are like kind of our advanced coaching calls, where we're kind of troubleshooting. It's like a troubleshooting kind of coaching call. So if you're watching this, write this down, because someday you're going to need it. The first thing that I'll say is that what you're experiencing, Colton, is totally normal. And people experience this in business every single day, no matter if you're new or if you're old in business. And I'll give you just a quick example. I've been, once again, 23 years in practice. So this is not my 6 week in practice. This is my, I don't even know how many weeks in practice, but like just the other day, it was weird. We had a patient schedule a new patient appointment for her and her husband, and they came into the office, and the husband was like, "Oh, we don't want to be put on a care plan. We don't want to come 3 days a week." They were like telling my CA this, as my CA was showing them around the office, giving them a little tour of the office. And then the husband was like dropping like these one-liners, like, "We don't want to be put on a plan. We don't want to come 3 days a week. We just want to come as needed." And then, of course, part of our legal protocol is that any patient that comes in as a new patient has to fill out paperwork. Like, that's part of their legal documentation that they were in our office, right? So then he didn't want to fill out the paperwork, right? And it was all like these objections, even before I didn't even enter the room yet. Well, long story short, they ended up leaving the practice even before I even got to them. All right. So why am I sharing this quick story with you guys, is because stuff like this happens all the time. And, the more experience that you have, the longer that you're in practice, now it's just like, it didn't even faze me. Now it was just like, okay, next. It was just like a next. There was no emotional attachment. There was no like pit in my stomach. And really if you can do this, if you can train your brain to say, okay, next, like, catch yourself, catch the feeling, because you're going to have the feeling, but catch the feeling and just train your brain next, that every single time that it happens, it's going to be easier for your brain to get into the next mode, which is the positive, which is the up. Okay, my next new patient. Okay, fine. Who cares? Where's my next one? My next one. Right? Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? So
100%.
It's like, yeah, it's like a mental gymnastics of wiring your brain to literally acknowledge the feeling, came in the split second, acknowledge it, and train your brain to immediately change it by refocusing. Because what it is what you're focusing on, the patient leaving, has a meaning. You're attaching a meaning to it. And that meaning at a deeper psychological level is, on some levels, I'm a failure, right? Now, I'm a failure has an emotion that we feel in our body. That's that pit that you feel like, can't see it, but that's that pit you feel here in your solar plexus, right? That's human psychology. That's human behavior. We all go through it. Every single person on the planet has that. But we can change that. So if on a conscious level, we recognize it immediately, we recognize the feeling in our body, we say, that's a negative feeling in my body. I don't like that negative feeling in my body. And then you are able to constantly change it in a moment. And you're able to shift your focus in a moment. When you shift your focus on the next new patient, which is going to give you you're going to assign a different meaning to a new patient. You're going to assign a positive meaning to the next new patient. And that positive meaning is going to elicit a different emotion, which is going to give you a different feeling in your body. And that's how you change your physiology. If you can learn how to do that now, you'll save yourself an ulcer. Because most chiropractors, many business owners, many entrepreneurs, it takes decades for them to learn how to do that. And that's natural. That's part of our normal physiology. That's not part of our normal psychology. The second lesson in this is when you guys are doing your promotions, your marketing. By the way, Colton, you are doing an amazing job with marketing. And I just love how you're creating balance in your life, where like you're getting up early Saturday mornings, you're doing a couple of hours of screenings, you're getting, you're a fisher of men, if you will, you're a fisher of men, you're like scooping up all the subluxated people in your little net, right? And you're bringing your net back to your office, and all these subluxated people are getting well and they're getting healthy. In general, the closer they schedule to the event, the more likely they are that they're going to show up. So the further out they are from the event, every single day that you go out further from the event, the less likely they are to show up. So in other words, if you do an event on Saturday, the majority of the people are going to show up on Monday because they're hot. But by the time you roll around to Tuesday and Wednesday, people's focus gets shifted, just like your focus gets shifted, right? Mm-hmm. Their focus gets shifted from what they learned at the screening, from their health, to all the busy tasks that they have going on in their life, getting to work, packing lunches, making dinner, taking the kids to school, taking the kids to sports, taking the kids to CCD, all those kinds of things, right? So that's why that happens. So what I try to do, and I'm sure you're doing this as well, but what I try to do is when I do a screening or an outside talk or an outside event, is I try to schedule my people as close to that event. So like, we don't do a whole lot of like external events anymore, because 50% of our new patients in our practice by this point comes from either Google, or they come from internal referrals because of the system that we have in place in the office. But let's say it's an internal referral and that person calls up and they're like, my brother Colton, comes to you and I'd like to make an appointment. If I can get them in that day, I get them in that day. Like, that's our team strategy, is that if we have an availability that day, we get them in. If we don't, if we're like totally booked, packed, solid, and if it will put a dent in the service that we provide for our current patients, we will wait until the next day. But we typically won't go outside of a 24-hour window to schedule that patient, because by the time that window is up, they lose focus. Now here's another thing, a logistical thing I'll do, Colton, is with scheduling, is if I have a patient, and I actually just did this the other day, I'll give you the example. We had a new patient call in, a referral, and they wanted to come in, but we had a new patient appointment scheduled at that same time. Okay. But the new patient appointment that we had already scheduled was somebody that had scheduled 2 weeks ago. His paperwork hasn't been submitted in, and nothing has been sent in from the patient. And they scheduled 2 weeks ago for this appointment. All right. So what does that mean? I double booked the appointment. Like, I scattered it a little bit, but I still double booked it, taking the gamble that the patient that scheduled 2 weeks ago is probably not going to show.
Mm.
Now there's a chance that they will. That's why I scattered it a little bit.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And normally if I knew that patient was absolutely coming, I wouldn't have double booked it. But the chances are statistically, the one that scheduled 2 weeks ago statistically is not going to show. So I double booked it. Okay. So there's something else that you can do. Now, a lot of coaches, and I want to be a little bit careful about how I say this. A lot of mentors in the profession teach you when you do a spinal screening to have them pay for their first visit. And I've done that in the past where, we said to the patient, now because our office is so busy and we see so many new patients, we have you leave a deposit of, $20 or something like that when we schedule them. You can do that. You can do that. I was doing that, Colton, when I was seeing like 90 to 100 plus new patients in a month. Okay. I was making them, we had so many new patients that we were having them pay for their new patient appointment ahead of time, because we literally didn't have the capacity to have people not show up. And we had such an abundance of new patients that we could do it. I have some conflicting feelings about that, and I'm going to be totally transparent and vulnerable with you. The other part of me, the spiritual part of me, the part that knows things about energy and how we manifest things in our life, makes me feel like that sometimes that's a little bit done out of scarcity if you make somebody pay ahead of time. Right? That's a little bit. Yeah. So I'll give you a quick example. I belong to a gym, and now all of a sudden, and I belong to a gym, but it's one of those like classes, It's like one of those, like they call it hybrid workouts. It's almost like a HIIT workout, like a high intensity training interval training. So it's like it starts at a certain time and it ends at a certain time. And they just implemented this $5 rule where if you miss or you cancel within two hours of the class, they charge you $5, right? And like, I typically never miss my classes because I like to do what I say I'm going to do. But last week I had an emergency new patient. I was literally in the car driving to my class. I had an emergency new patient and I had to turn my car and go to the office, and I missed my class, right? And I was kind of annoyed that they charged me $5 when I had an emergency new patient, right? So my first thought was like, okay, I get it. That's coming from their place of scarcity, meaning like they feel like they don't have enough, so they have to charge for people who miss. So that's my thought on it. It's not necessarily, I'm not telling you to do it yet. I'm telling you to make a decision based on where you're at and what you feel. At this stage in the game, I no longer like charge people to hold their spot or anything like that, because honestly, like I just feel like if somebody doesn't make their appointment, God always fills the spot. The spot always somehow gets filled. Yeah. So those are my words of wisdom for what you went through this week.
That's valuable. Thank you.
Is it? Does it help you?
No, it is super helpful. I really appreciate it.
Sure. And then there was one last thing I was thinking, Colton, when you were talking too, is sometimes when things feel like they're getting shut down, it can also be because of capacity as well. So like, I'm not really sure, I should probably be collecting your stats on where you guys are at. So I'm not sure how many adjustments per day or per week you're currently doing, plus how many new patients per day or per week you're doing. But there's going to come a time, I know you all don't want to hear this, but there's going to come a time where you're going to have to hire help to be able to grow. And right, I have my water bottle here, and we've done this, this example a million times over, is you can only fit as much water into this bottle as it will allow until you need to get a bigger canister, right? So hiring a team member, it would be you getting a bigger canister. So if you start to see like a pattern of like things like shutting down on you, it's only because like you're working with this much and now like you really need to be working with this much.
Yeah. Okay.
So
cool.
I don't know if I helped you, if I made you more down.
No, I'm locked in. Like that's all super great information. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. So shoot, man, we are coming right around our half-hour mark on our podcast. How fast did that go?
It's going quick. It always does. It always
does. Did it go as quick for you as it did for me this week? Oh my God.
Always.
So I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know that you need to get back to patients today, but is there anything else that you wanted to share or anything you wanted to leave, any words of wisdom you wanted to leave this podcast on?
Yeah, I just think the biggest thing is like, don't let comparison like rule your mind, I guess. Like it's easy to compare. It's easy to look at other people and what they're doing, but like it's you versus you. So me versus me I'm really talking to myself. So that's all I got this week.
Amen. I love it. It's a big takeaway, guys. Write that down. No comparison. God created you to be unique and different from everybody else. You're as unique as a fingerprint. You're not supposed to be that other person.
That's right.
Not what he intended for you. So I love it. And on that note, I think we can end. That's a really high note to end on. I think we can end this podcast for sure. For this week. You guys come back next week.
Tune in next week. Tune in next week, guys. Until then, peace.